Bonjour, good morning, guten Morgen.
Yeah, it's almost already good afternoon, but you just came in today. Dear Antonio, I'm very glad to see you here in Brussels at a time where we face several crises that are intricate, interlinked, and international by nature. Whether it is Ukraine or Gaza, Sudan or Haiti. And this makes the cooperation between the European Union and the United Nations the more important than ever before. We work together to help restore peace and stability in regions in turmoil. Today we will, of course, discuss Gaza. Allow me, first of all, to express my deepest condolences for the recent loss of UN staff on the ground. We are extremely concerned about the war in Gaza and the unfolding catastrophic humanitarian situation. Gaza is facing famine. This is unacceptable. It's critical to achieve an agreement on a ceasefire rapidly now that frees the hostages and allows more humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. So let us hope for a positive outcome of the discussions led by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt. I discussed this with Emir Ben Hamad Al Thani recently, and President al-Sisi in Cairo. I was there on Sunday. We are also very concerned about the risks a full-scale offensive in Rafah would have on the vulnerable civilian population. This needs to be avoided by all costs. In the meantime, we do everything we can to channel more aid to Gaza. We allocated an additional 125 million euros for humanitarian aid for Palestinians in 2024. Out of this total, 81 million has already been contracted to key UN partners, such as the World Food Programme, WHO, and UNICEF. Now, the flow of aid by land is too slow. So we call for the opening of more land crossings while we further develop alternatives. For example, the airdrops and, of course, through the maritime corridor we opened from Cyprus. And I'm very glad that after Open Arms' successful operation was completed, but now, of course, we need to see many more such ships and deliveries in the maritime corridor to Gaza. But of course, we must also continue to focus the actual delivery of aid to Palestinians on the ground. We have seen the images of food distribution among stampede and chaos, so we must work on safe delivery of aid with agencies that are present on the ground, and this includes, of course, first and foremost, UNRWA. I appreciate, Antonio, your determination and transparency in addressing the allegations against UNRWA staff. We have a constructive dialogue with UNRWA. It allowed us to disperse a first payment of 50 million euros as part of the 82 million to be implemented through UNRWA in 2024, in the interest first and foremost of the people of Gaza. While we address the emergency of the crisis, we must also prepare for the day after. Europe will support recovery and reconstruction as soon as conditions allow, and we need to build a clear political path towards a two-state solution. Dear Antonio, we will also, of course, discuss Ukraine. The European Union is steadfast in its support to Ukraine, in its brave fight for freedom. Our 50 billion euro facility for Ukraine is now up and running. We have just disbursed the first 4.5 billion today. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank you, Antonio, for your efforts that I remember very well how you promoted the Black Sea grain deal last year. It helped Ukraine continue to export grain to the world at the beginning of the conflict. That was crucial. Today, it is good to see how much grain is being exported again via the Black Sea, also thanks to the Ukrainian armed forces. So to conclude, dear Antonio, Europe will continue to play an active role in the UN initiatives for peace and stability. We are your #1 financial supporter, and we are it proudly so. It's an honor to be that. And we are also looking forward to making your summit for the future in September a real success.
Dear Ursula, ladies and gentlemen of the press, may I first of all express my enormous appreciation for what is an exemplary cooperation between the European Commission and the UN Secretariat, and our enormous gratitude for what has been the constant and extremely important support from the European Union to the UN, to UN activities, even in some difficult circumstances, as it was just mentioned in relation to Gaza, and to multilateralism. And I thank President von der Leyen for her very warm welcome. We are meeting at a particularly dark moment when Europe's role on the global stage is more important than ever. In Ukraine, 2 years ago, Russia's full-scale invasion has caused and is causing terrible suffering, stoking global tensions and undermining international law and the UN Charter. I reiterate my call for a just peace, and that means the respect of the sovereignty, the independence, the unity and the territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Meanwhile, the war continues in Gaza. Nothing justifies the abhorrent acts of Hamas on October 7, and nothing justifies the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Today, more than half of the population, over 1 million people, are facing catastrophic hunger, according to the scientific classification that was recently published. And so we must act now before it is too late. I call on the Israeli authorities to ensure complete and unfettered access for humanitarian goods throughout Gaza, and for the international community to fully support our humanitarian efforts. And we must keep doing everything to stop the killing, reach an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, and secure the unconditional release of hostages. In both these crises, the European Union is our steadfast ally in urging solutions in line with the UN Charter and with international law. Beyond these wars, mistrust and division rule the day. Inequalities are rising, climate change is wreaking havoc, and global frameworks are simply not up to the task. From the Security Council to the global financial architecture, we must transform international institutions so that they can respond to the challenges of our time and deliver for all, including the most vulnerable. Multilateralism and solidarity are in the DNA of the European Union, and many look to the EU as a leading force worldwide. We must stand together to silence the guns, step in to save lives and protect humanitarian workers, speak up for human rights, dignity and gender equality, respect international law, root out injustice, safeguard our climate and protect our planet. As we prepare for the United Nations Summit of the Future in September, I fully trust the EU and its member states to keep pushing for a more inclusive, effective and resilient international system. Only together we can build a peaceful, prosperous and just future for all, and I thank you.
Thank you. Let us go over there.